March. Time for St. Patrick's Day, spring, and your last chance to play any of that 35th anniversary stuff like Fire Emblem and, of course, Super Mario. I mean, I didn't really care for Super Mario 35, and I haven't played Fire Emblem yet. I thought it would be a little unfair to do videos about them. However, I have a little more history with the 3D All-Stars pack, and that's going to be what this video is going to be about. Videos, to be more precise. Yeah, this is going to be a three-parter, as I'm going to actually dive deep into the games that make the 3D Mario All-Stars the, well, 3D Mario All-Stars. And before anyone mentions in the comments, sadly no, I won't be talking about Super Mario Galaxy 2 or why it wasn't part of the 3D All-Stars pack. Because if I was going to review that game, I had to 100% it. I will do a video on Mario Galaxy 2 in the future, I just have to mentally prepare myself. So, welcome to my three-part review of the Super Mario All-Star games, where I talked about, you guessed it, the 3D Mario games. I will be reviewing them based off the original, and I will also mention a bit of the upgrades/downgrades to the Nintendo Switch edition. So, let's get started with the very beginning. It's the mid-90s, and Nintendo was about ready to take the next big step in gaming, going 3D. And of course, leading the charge was Super Mario himself. So in 1996, Shigeru Miyamoto finally made Super Mario 64 for, well, the Nintendo 64. And of course, it was a major success, even though the N64 was not as powerful as the PlayStation. You've probably already heard of the history between Sony and Nintendo and how they wanted to make a console together, and eventually that led to the PlayStation, but honestly, a lot of people have already talked about it, so I'm not gonna even bother. Let's just talk about the plot of the game, if you don't know it yet. Actually, before we start with the story, let's actually mention the main menu, as of course it's pretty infamous with the, things that you can do with Mario's face. With of course added new features, such as the multi-face Marios in the back screen. I mention this because this is technically a port of the updated version that was exclusive in Japan, which added a few things and got rid of a few glitches. Now back to the story. The game starts with a letter from Princess Toadstool. Toadstool? That's stupid. The story begins with a letter from Princess Toadstool, aka Princess Peach, which I think is now technically canon that her last name is Toadstool. So that means her name is Princess Peach Toadstool. I mention this mostly because this is actually the first time we technically hear Peach's first name, as back in the old NES and SNES era, we kinda hear Princess Peach as, well, Princess Toadstool, never referred to as Princess Peach. It's one of the first of many things that made Nintendo history, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Back to the story, again. Peach invites Mario to have some cake, so Mario jumps out of a warp pipe, runs into a Lakitu who explains the camera controls, and it turns out Bowser has taken over the castle and has trapped everyone within the castle, including Peach, inside of the walls, and has stolen the Power Stars within the castle. So Mario has to traverse the castle and retrieve as many Power Stars as he can, and defeat Bowser and save the princess. And he does that by jumping through paintings. Kinda weird that the architecture can lead to other worlds. And I guess I should mention this, the hub world. This might be my personal opinion, but I think Princess Peach's castle is the first 3D hub world in gaming. You traverse around the area, find hidden collectibles, and of course go from world to world. You can of course traverse the castle, run into Toads, and some of them will actually have Power Stars for you, unlike other video games that use a level select situation. For Nintendo's first attempt at a 3D platformer, Mario controls very well, even to this very day, and of course revolutionized how 3D platformers should be designed. Of course, lots of other games were inspired by Mario's first adventure into 3D. Trust me, the list goes on. Of course, Power Stars are the main collectible in this game. And the best way to collect Power Stars is by jumping through paintings and beating all the missions in them. There are roughly 6 missions in the game, but 7 Power Stars to obtain. The missions tend to differ between world to world, with the exception of one of them has to be a 7 red coin mission. And of course, the 7th one is hidden unless you find all 100 coins in the world. And there are a multitude of ways of getting the stars, and some of them are really great, and some of them are simple, some of them are more difficult, and some of them are just borderline annoying. Not to mention, Mario will also get 3 power-ups that that are specifically used for specific missions to get specific power stars, such as the invisible cap, which is pretty useful to get through walls, and I think not take damage. I might be wrong about that one. The metal cap, which makes you into Metal Mario, which helps you get underwater as well as destroy certain things, and the wing cap, which, if I'm gonna be 100% honest, is my least favorite power-up. I know, it's a bit of a shock, but hear me out on this one. When I think of something like the wing power-up, you think you can fly with this thing anywhere you want, but the wing power-up is more of a gliding ability. Nothing wrong with it controls really well, but all you can really do is just go down and then fly up, but not as high as you were, or higher, and go down. And of course fly around. It's great for navigation in this levels, but the worlds are very simple, and not many levels have the ability for you to use the wing cap. That is, in terms, helpful. This is also a great leeway in just talking about the worlds in the game, and what better way to start than of course with the first one, Bob-omb Battlefield. This is the first world you automatically get in the game because you don't need any power stars to get it. And honestly, it's actually a really great tutorial world to best move around and use Mario, with the exception of two things. The water cannon that's being shot on the hill, and the chain chomp that scared a lot of kids back in the 90s. But then we realized he wasn't scary because he was a locked up doggy. Honestly, there's a lot of variety in this world, and as much as I have a problem with the wing cap, it is actually a well-diverse level, adding a lot of the things that you'll be seeing in the game. Enemies like Goombas, Bob-ombs, a boss with King Bob-omb, the cannon, which is always fun to fly out of. I will generally say that's a positive when you have the wing cap. And a floating island, which is easily accessible through the wing cap or by shooting yourself with a cannon and not missing like an idiot. And one of my personal favorite secrets that I've known for a long time, the secret warp area from the bottom to the top of the hill, which of course we all used when we were facing Koopa the Quick. Don't lie to yourself. As much of a great tutorial world it is, it's not my favorite. That actually goes to Thwomp's Fortress. I think this is actually a better world than kind of how it's designed. It has a really fun boss, even though he's very easy. Cool owl you can fly around on. And a couple of hard power stars you get, one of which involves a cannon, and another one I can't seem to find even with the metal cap. I mean, the level was so good they brought it back in Mario Galaxy 2. And this will be the only time I actually talk about Mario Galaxy 2. The third world is Jolly Roger Bay, which is a water world, and I'm not talking about the movie. Weirdly enough, Jolly Roger Bay is somewhat stressful yet very soothing. I'd say it's pretty smoothing and calm because of the music, but what makes it stressful is the fact that you're underwater and you need oxygen, and Mario can drown and die in this game. And of course, I gotta mention the eel. Seriously, there's a lot of nightmare fuel in this game, and we're not even at the scariest part yet. Cool Mountain is a nice world that, doesn't suck, with some noteworthy things such as an annoying snowball that I generally hate, a mama penguin who's looking for a baby penguin who is for some reason on top of the mountain, don't know how the hell he did that, and of course the funnest slide in all of the Mushroom Kingdom, with a fun little shortcut that if you apparently take in this version, you automatically lose to the penguin you're racing. Weird, I couldn't remember using that to win automatically. Maybe it's because it's the updated version. The next world's actually a little more unique to enter. For starters, you see a Boo heading to the back of the courtyard. And next thing you know, in the courtyard, it's full of Boos. There's a specific one that has a cage in them. If you defeat it, you will go into the next world, which is Big Boo's Haunt, which is a literal haunted house full of Boos, and other forms of nightmare fuel, such as creepy giant eyes, moving sarcophaguses, books with teeth, King Boo, and of course, the dreaded piano. Seriously, what's up with this game and giving you all kinds of scares? This was pretty close to one of my favorite levels, mostly because it's very eerie and fun. But if I had to generally say what was one of my least favorite parts in this game, it's obviously that wall jumping mission that you have to go on the roof for. And honestly, that mission just sucks because I really hate the frickin' wall jumping. I will generally say that's probably the biggest problem is the wall jumping mechanic in this game. You have to have a running start and then jump on the wall to jump off the wall. You can't just jump on the wall and then jump off of it. It might be because I'm just used to modern games doing it, but as a kid, I never knew how to do that in the games. I had to try triple jumping and god, it was a nightmare. It's a scarier mission than dealing with the piano, that's for certain. Next is Hazy Maze Cave, which is a literal maze, and finding the power stars in this world is a real mission, but I mean that in a good way. Also, for some reason, the Metal Mario cap is hidden in this world, even though the other two power-ups were hidden in the castle. And I kinda find that dumb. The next world is Lethal Lava Land. The title kind of actually explains it, with volcanoes, lava everywhere, a volcano, spewing fire, more lava, and my least favorite characters in this series, bullies. Mostly because they love pushing you and they're super annoying to deal with. I mean, they're not hard, they're just annoying. Unlike Shifting Sand Land, which is actually pretty unique, with the only annoyance I have is the death by quicksand. It instantly kills you and there's no way to stop you from dying from it. Still my favorite world, and it's just a fun, unique desert world. I'm a sucker for Egyptian stuff, and I really love that the desert theming, Pokies, the Egyptian pyramid that has a hidden treasure and a fun hidden boss. And I find it funny that the first mission has a klepto and you have to steal the star from him, and in the future levels he gets mad at you for what you did and he tries to steal your hat. I guess that's also another game mechanic they added later on in the game, is that Mario's hat can be, well, taken off of him, and he takes more damage. I don't know why Nintendo added this, but it's still kind of fun and funny. The next world is Dire Docks, which is just literally Jolly Roger Bay, now with 70% more water. And a submarine. Sometimes. I mean, yeah, these last few worlds are not that original. I will generally say some of the worlds do use the same assets, and I can say that for things like Snowman's Land, which is literally Cool Mountain without the Cool Mountain. However, I will say Wet Dry World is pretty unique on account of it has a unique world mechanic where you use the water to better level where you want the water to be. Like, you need the water higher so you can get to hidden areas, and you need it lower so you can get to other areas. There's Tall Mountain, and it sure is. Tiny Huge Island, which is an interesting concept where you have two different portraits, one that's super tiny that makes you big, and one that's really big that makes you small. But it's not helpful for certain situations. You have to really guess which one you need for specific missions. Honestly, I always go for the big one, then I go little just in case I need to. I never really liked it when it was tiny because it always made things a little more trickier to navigate through. Then Hickory Dickory Dock, there's Tick Tock Clock, which is a level you are literally in a clock. Though I think this one's actually pretty unique on account of, well, depending on what time you enter the clock, there's different things that happen. And the last world, Rainbow Road. And I really hate saying this, but I think it's the worst world in the game. The reason I say this is mostly because you start the game every single time going down the same rainbow path, and it's slow, it's obnoxious, and of course, if you fall off any platform in the game, it's practically an instant death. And I guess I should mention the live system in this game. It's weird that you can save how many power stars you got in the game, yet you can't save how many lives you've gotten in the game. But I'm kind of not mad at it on account of it's really easy to get lives in this game. I mean, I got roughly like 20 to 30 lives on my first playthrough. It still adds a little more of a challenge to me. And now that I've mentioned almost all the worlds, I guess I should talk about the bosses as well for each world. I've already mentioned King Babam. He's a little on the annoying side, mostly because you have to go around him over and over again. King Thwomp is surprisingly easy. I already mentioned how much I don't like the bullies. The Egyptian one's pretty cool. I've never faced Wiggler, honestly. And of course, I should mention Bowser. In all honesty, I'm not a real big fan of his boss fights, like, at all. Mostly because his boss fight is just in general, well, getting around him, spinning him around, and making sure you hit the bomb, which in all honesty, I suck at. The second boss fight is a little more interesting on account of Bowser jumps back on the platform, he'll actually tip the stage, and of course he'll start running at you if you're too far away. And of course, the final Bowser boss fight, where it doesn't take one hit this time, it takes 3 hits. I will just say there is more challenge when you face Bowser than the final boss. And of course, his noteworthy difference is he's now rainbow tinted. Though it is a little more of a challenge, mostly because when you now miss this time every time you throw him, you'll actually lose more platforms, and by the second hit, he'll actually destroy most of the platforms that are closest from the bombs. So you have to have really good throwing and timing, which in all honesty, I don't. And once when you finally beat him, you get the final power star, fly away, you save Princess Peach, and you get cake and an ending. Though of course there is a completion bonus where you get 120 stars, as you actually can find Yoshi on the roof, and he'll give you 99 lives, which in all honesty is not really worth it. And I don't really like a lot of the missions in this game, but they're nothing compared to the other game we'll be talking about in the future. In conclusion, Super Mario 64 hasn't aged perfectly when it comes to many different things. Well, for starters, the graphics, obviously, and it doesn't help that the Nintendo Switch version definitely shows some of those flaws. Hey, at least though the PNGs that are for Mario's health and the Power Stars are looking nicer. Then I have to remember this was Nintendo's first big step towards 3D platformers, and how they would be taking Mario games from that point on. And you'll be able to see that in the next two games we'll be talking about. It's still a game I do recommend on account of it's still fun to play, and the controlling is pretty good, both in the N64 version, even though the controller is a little annoying, and of course the Nintendo Switch version. If you haven't played this version, which I find very unlikely, considering this is an iconic 3D platformer, you should still give this game a try, and if you haven't played in a while, I recommend playing again and see if it's aged well in your opinion. And with that, that is the first of the Super Mario 3D All-Stars games. Of course, thank you guys so much for watching. I have a lot of history with this game. I do like it, but I will say it hasn't aged as well as I remember it. And not to mention, this was the 3D Mario game that inspired other 3D platformers to do what they do. And eventually Mario would do this yet again in its sequel game, which we'll be talking about next time, Super Mario Sunshine, during the GameCube era, or as I like to call it, Nintendo's experimental phase. And if you want to see that, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications so you'll be notified when that video comes out. And of course, the conclusion, Mario Galaxy. And you can also check out my other content. Thank you all so much for watching, and see you next time.